Last week, we heard about how God gave the people the Ten Commandments. When Moses left to go meet with God, the people seemed to love God and want to worship him alone. When Moses came back to the people, things had changed drastically. We will learn more about that in today's lesson. But first, do you remember our big picture question? Our big picture question this month asks, what is worship? Worship is celebrating the greatness of God. There are so many ways that God is great and many ways we can worship him. Worship is more than just things we do. It's the way we live. We can worship God in everything we do if we are doing things to honor God and show the world how wonderful he is. Worship might look like singing or prayer or reading the Bible or anything else that honors God. God alone deserves our worship. But the Israelites struggled with worshiping God alone. Even though he had proven himself time and time again by rescuing them from Egypt, providing food and water for them in the wilderness, and giving them his law, the people continued to forget all the great things he had done. They began to worship other things instead of God. And that's where today's story picks up. Moses was on Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights. The Israelites were at the bottom of the mountain and were getting impatient. They went to Moses' brother Aaron and said, "Make us a god to lead us." So Aaron collected gold from the people and made a statue of a calf that they could worship. God saw what the people were doing, and he was angry. Moses said, "Remember the great promise you made to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." So God did not destroy his people. Moses went down the mountain and saw that the people were dancing before the golden calf. He threw down the stone tablets and destroyed the golden calf. The next day, Moses went back up the mountain to talk to God. Please forgive their sin. God told Moses to return to the people and lead them. When the time comes, I will punish them for their sin, God said. God continued to meet with Moses and give him laws and instructions. God came down in a cloud. He said, "The Lord is a compassionate and gracious God, but he will not leave the guilty unpunished." Moses bowed down and worshiped God. Now, it's hard to believe that Israel fell away from God so quickly, but before we condemn them for their sin, we must remember something. We do the same thing. It's so easy for all of us to turn away from God and turn to our sin. Israel's problem in this story is that they were not willing to wait on God. They were impatient. When Moses did not come back for several days, 40 in total, they got worried. They asked Aaron to make them an idol to worship, to take God's place. But God alone deserved the Israelites' worship, and the same is true for us. We are to worship only God. But like Israel, sometimes other things get in the way, like our sin. Sin has messed everything up, and many times we allow our sin to get in the way of our worship toward God. This is exactly why God sent Jesus, to fix this problem of sin. Jesus can forgive us of any sin, even the sin of idolatry. When we turn to Jesus and give our lives to him, he forgives us of all of our sin and makes it possible for us to live with God forever. Jesus becomes what we call a mediator, someone who stands in our place. Jesus took the punishment for our sins so that we would not have to. That alone deserves all our worship. Moses acted as the people's mediator, standing for them before God. But Moses could not do anything to make up for their sin. We have a better mediator, Jesus. Jesus paid for our sin on the cross and stands for us before God. When we trust in Jesus, our sins are forgiven. So let's end today's lesson with our memory verse. Psalm 95, 6 and 7 says, "Come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the sheep under his care." We were created to worship God. That means that we should live the way he commands us to and celebrate his greatness. Next week, we will wrap up this unit on worship as we learn more about the special place God gave the people to worship him.